Welcome to Freaked Out with your co-hosts, Liz and Landon.
What's up, everybody?
Guys, today we have a very special episode, one that most of you probably never heard of, and there are many factors to that. But these are one of those cases that got overlooked by other cases. Honestly, a genuine example of a white privilege situation here.
Absolutely. Before we get started working on this case, Liz asked me if I had heard of this case before, and I had told her that I didn't. Then she asked me if I had heard about Elizabeth Smart, and I did hear about that case.
And these cases were only approximately a month apart. And the amount of attention that went on to the Elizabeth Smart's case is really unreal compared to what happened with Alexis Patterson's case. Now, Alexis's case happened May 3rd of 2002, only just a month before I gave birth to my own daughter.
Elizabeth Smart's case happened nearly 1,000 miles away, and not only did they get the FBI involved pretty quickly, there was also a $250,000 reward that was involved from the FBI, and Alexis's case only received a $10,000 reward.
Like, that alone, somebody is going to bend over backwards for $250,000, not $10,000. Do you know what I mean?
I agree to that.
Elizabeth Smart's case had pictures of her up within hours, whereas with this particular case, it actually took them 3 days before the FBI got involved.
With all that hard work and manpower, they were able to find Elizabeth Smart within only 9 months. Alexis Patterson, though, still looking for her nearly 21 years later.
This is the exact reason why I chose Alexis Patterson to be part of our Black History Month. There are very small details about this case that I want to make big headway. I want to make people pay attention to it now. I want everyone to see that Alexis is just as important and her story is also important.
I agree, absolutely. And what a better way to do this than put it in an episode and put it out there on our podcast. If you guys have social media, which I know most of you guys do, it only takes 2 minutes to post this on your social media platform. Indicate that this particular case is very important, along with others, of course, but I want to see you guys share this case. I want you guys to tell us in the comments where you shared this case as well.
Absolutely. We owe this to Alexis for honestly screwing her over the first time. And we owe this to Alexis's mother, who, in my opinion, is the only person that even managed to scream from the rooftops about this case. And I really don't feel like she got a lot of help. And when she would complain about it, they looked at her like she was unruly or over the top.
Of course they did. The racial profiling, even now, is still happening. And guys, we need to be more aware of that.
All right, let's get through the details.
Alexis was last seen on May 3rd of 2002 when she walked to her first grade classroom at Highmont Community School in Milwaukee. She was with LaRon, her stepfather at the time.
According to sources, she was upset that day because she was supposed to be taking snacks for her whole class, and because she hadn't done well with her homework, she didn't get to take the snacks. So this was something her stepfather had stated.
Which I think is kind of a little weird because you don't really get a choice in that.
I think the mother as well had also stated that this was in fact true.
Well, her stepfather said goodbye, and that was the last time anyone seen Alexis Patterson. She never showed up for her class. LeBron said that he watched Alexis walk towards the playground before he headed back to the residence. Alexis never attended her class during the day, although students reported seeing her crying on the playground before and after school. Do you sense that anybody's seen her on the schoolyard?
I really don't feel as though they had seen her, honestly. They may have seen somebody else, but I really don't believe it was her. I do want to mention what she was wearing before she went missing. She was wearing a red and gray pullover jacket, blue jeans, and she had a pink Barbie doll book bag as well.
I just know, I don't know how it works here in Canada, but in the US, when your child has snack day, you have to bring a snack. It doesn't matter if the kid did their homework or not. That's why she was so upset and probably didn't even go into her class.
Let me clarify something. It was for snacks for the entire class.
Yes. In America, Skylar had to do this. When it's your day, you have to provide a snack that is approved, and they give you a list for there. So it's juice and oranges or milk and whatever. Like they have a list of things you can provide for the class, like pretzels and goldfish, stuff like that. And you have to give the snack for the whole class. Like it's a mandatory. Like it's not, oh, you didn't do your homework, so now we're not going to let you bring the snack. Like that's why I'm saying she probably cried, because she could get in trouble from her teacher. Like no one's getting a snack today because you didn't bring it. Like, and then they call your parents. So that's probably why she was crying.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point.
Ayanna, Alexis's mother, and LaRon were not notified about Alexis's absence after school was dismissed in that afternoon.
It is important to have all children accounted for, and this could honestly have been a chunk of time to delay everything. There was an indication that they initially believed she refused to attend classes because of the argument she had with her mother. Ayanna said that Alexis failed to properly complete her homework during the previous evening, and as a result of that, she was not allowed to bring cupcakes for her classmates the following day.
Authorities agreed with the scenario and said that there may have been something that caused Alexis's disappearance. After she was seen in the schoolyard on the playground later in the day, she does not have any history of running away and had a perfect attendance record at school prior to this disappearance.
And, I think she was probably proud of that. Some of Alexis's classmates told the police that they had seen a red truck parked near the school for most of the week before she disappeared. The truck had never dropped anyone off or picked anyone else up, and it disappeared after Alexis vanished, never to be seen again. It has never been identified, and it is unknown if it is connected to her case.
Well, something just isn't sitting right with me in this case, but let's carry on. LaRon failed a polygraph test after Alexis's disappearance and was charged for an unrelated crime in 2003, a year after Alexis had vanished. He had a domestic dispute with Ayanna, and Ayanna described LaRon as an abusive and threatening person towards her. Ayanna and LaRon had since separated and moved away from the Milwaukee area.
LaRon had that shady feel to him right from the beginning. Just those pictures just made me feel something there.
He really does. Looking through all the details surrounding this case, it looks as though he has now died. It looks like Tuesday, January 19th of 2021. So just 2 years ago, he passed away as a result of a suspected overdose.
I also find it interesting that there was nothing noted that any eyewitness had seen her or, LaRon walking around the school or around the schoolyard.
I also find that very odd. Like, wouldn't you go look at all to see if you could call your kid? No one else seen her. She had a perfect attendance record at school. Why would she screw that up now? I'm sure this child had other days where she wasn't happy regardless. And I just want to know why he walked her to school rather than the mother, though. My question is, did he voluntarily take her? And was this part of her routine? It just feels like there's a lot of unanswered questions here.
Oh, yeah. Now, the fact that this man had failed the polygraph test, I want to know exactly what the hell he did fail. And why didn't they press him more on this situation? All we know here is that there were certain elements interrelation of the polygraph test that he failed, indicating that he may know where her whereabouts may be.
Exactly. But sadly, in Milwaukee, polygraph tests cannot be held admissible in court, and that is probably one of the big reasons why they did not put him in jail. After the initial delay in searching for her in the days to follow, police went door to door asking people whether they had seen this little girl and if there was any sign of her.
The search was expanded. Divers searched the lagoon of Washington Park. Officers on horseback searched the grounds while helicopters took to the sky. Volunteers joined to search efforts. Still, Alexis Patterson was nowhere to be found. Soon, the case of a missing Milwaukee 7-year-old girl made national headlines.
They came up with nothing, though, sadly. 1 year after she vanished, investigators were still investigating, and they had a tip that did not pan out. With each passing year, police followed dead-end tips, but her family remained hopeful.
In 2009, 7 years after her disappearance, this case was officially assigned to the Milwaukee Police Department Cold Case Unit.
In 2016, police investigated a new lead in Ohio from someone claiming a woman who she knew who thought to be Alexis Patterson. What I find strange is that the man thought his ex-wife was Alexis Patterson and apparently called in and they took a DNA test and it wasn't a match. But the mother said that they never took any DNA from her or any of Alexis's things. So she was wondering who the DNA test was taken from and what they used to even compare it to.
I tried looking into the situation a little bit more, and Ayanna Patterson said she didn't believe in the DNA match and she demanded investigators to run another test. This, time comparing the Ohio woman's DNA to her own, which she provided to the police. She says, prove me wrong. She said it was clear to her. She asked if the investigators would consider conducting the test, and the police department replied with a statement that they were absolutely sure that it is not her based on the DNA.
Okay, so when the police responded, they said that they had taken a toothbrush and compared the DNA, but the mother said that there was nothing taken from the apartment. So even if it wasn't her DNA, even if she wasn't Alexis Patterson, why can't you just do it just to satisfy the mother and her gut feeling on this? Alexis may not actually necessarily know that she is the Alexis that's missing, you know what I mean?
Why push against doing a DNA test? It's a very quick fix. Let's make it happen. This woman, they said, has really no memory of her childhood before the age of 10 years old. She has no photographs or school mementos and only remembers being brought to California, although she claimed she was born in Central America. The Ohio woman said that she is not Alexis and expresses anger at this story.
It's almost like she just doesn't want it to be her. Alexis's mother, Ayanna, indicated that this woman had 8 identifying marks that were very similar to Alexis Patterson. Well, we dug a little harder to find out this information, but we were able to identify a Lisa Miller, thanks to one of our followers on our Freaked Out Facebook group. We were able to determine that, and we applaud you and your efforts in giving us those details.
Absolutely. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to find this photo so quickly. Now, with this tiny piece of information, we were able to come to a conclusion a lot easier.
All right. I know you have a lot of information on this case, and we have spent days and days trying to figure this out. Maybe you can provide some perspective on how things progressed with this case.
Absolutely. Firstly, I would like to indicate that I had an extremely hard time channeling Alexis. I was able to determine exactly what happened to her fairly quickly, but I wasn't able to find her in the sense of passing away. When I sense a person that has passed on, they usually start to communicate with me. They'll present themselves in a physical form so I can recognize them, and then they will start to whisper words to me. In this situation, I had felt absolutely zero communication, which led me to believe that she was still alive. But I find it very hard to determine if a child is alive based on the amount of time that they've been gone. So I kind of second-guessed myself quite a bit.
Definitely, understandably. And also there were a couple other factors in this case that made it seem a little bit more confusing.
Well, let's go ahead and start going through all these little pieces here. Automatically, the moment I read into this case, I knew right away that the stepfather was lying, and I really do believe he had made a lot of mistakes in his parenting skills, in his own child, and one way or another, I see that Alexis and him did struggle with their relationship. But from what I gather, he was a very, self-involved person. I do feel like he had a lot of mental health related issues and was never diagnosed properly with mental health. I honestly feel as though he had something connected to maybe being schizophrenic, something along those lines.
Did you want to tell everybody the odd situation that took place earlier?
Oh, yeah. He is a very friendly spirit. He is having a lot of regrets, and he is showing me that after he did what he did to Alexis, he went into a deeper depression, and he continued to do drug-related things to hurt himself because he was trying to die. He lost everything in his life, and I believe he also lost his other child. But from what I can see, he could never bring himself to confess. He showed me that he regretted it every single day. I am seeing that he reconnected with a larger woman. I'd say she died at around the 350-pound mark. And he shows me that she may have been a grandmother of his or something along those lines. She's wearing a dress and no bra. He is the one telling me to say this, by the way, so that I can paint a picture. He's referencing that although she died very young in her life, that she was someone who pushed him every day while he was alive to confess. And from what I gather, he has never stepped forward to speak to anyone on the other side. He shows me that he only started to do this today.
So how did he approach you? Was it him just coming to you, or was it you going to him?
Because I was consistently talking about it out loud, talking about it with Catherine, talking about it with you, Landon, he just kind of came. His energy is surprisingly genuine, which I was not anticipating. And I was actually very shocked, but he is the reason I have all the answers today when it comes to her disappearance.
All right, well then take us back to that day.
He shows me he was trying very hard to get himself out of debt. He owed a lot of people a lot of money, and I believe it was for drugs, but I also believe for guns as well. Maybe something in relation to a couple of guns. There are a few different things he owed people money for. And it looks as though his money situation was getting worse and worse, and these people were basically letting him know that they were coming for him.
That was a rumor as well when it came to seeing a lot of posts on Facebook.
Yes, there are so many reasons why people believe this, but there are people in the neighborhood that were also aware of his debt. Anyways, he tried to reason with the person that was considering taking him out. He even offered his services to kill somebody else for him. He was more afraid of dying and being killed, and he did not want his family to suffer. At least that's what he's telling me. He was given a couple of options, and the first option was a baby. They wanted him to give his baby to them, but he refused. He did think about it for a while, though, and from what I gather, he decided to offer Alexis up instead. And I believe these people went along with it. Now, he shows me that there was a specific date and time they were going to take this child, and they had planned this out maybe 2-3 weeks prior. I even believe that he took Alexis out with him one day for this guy to get a look at her, and I feel like they decided absolutely they were going to take her.
Regardless of his mistakes, he should have just taken the sentence of getting himself killed. It's his own fault for putting himself in that predicament. It's not Alexis's fault.
Absolutely. It was not Alexis's cross to bear in any way. From what I'm being shown as well, this particular man had taken some footage of her and submitted it to the person who was trying to obtain children in general, female specifically. And that is when LaRon got the okay. I even feel as though LaRon made some sort of wager to make an offer financially as well. He felt that his debt would not only be paid to those people, but he also felt like Alexis would be worth more. So I believe he also obtained a couple grand in drugs and money. So maybe about $5,000 and some drug, related things too.
Obviously, he hid this from the mother. I feel like she really wanted for him to be innocent, but she had a gut feeling that he was not.
He shows me he was physically, emotionally, and mentally abusive towards her and the children. And he does say that she often bring it up and he would lose his mind, which made her believe more and more every day that he had something to do with it.
I could only imagine what Ayana was going through, trying to fight for her own intuition on feelings on the matter.
I feel as though he had been trying to suck up to her this particular week. Also feeling bad that he had to go forward to do this. Not bad enough to stop it, though. Either way, he had taken Alexis to the end of the street, I believe. And then I think that's when he had gotten into another vehicle. The vehicle is not red or a truck. I feel like the vehicle was black and the windows were also quite a bit tinted. I also feel like the vehicle was a 4-door. I do not feel like it was an SUV or anything along those lines. It seemed to be a little bit more compacted.
So where did he take her?
I keep seeing a warehouse. I see that there were a lot of cars there, so perhaps it's like a stolen car lot. I feel as though there was a mix of people in this particular warehouse, but I feel like the men that ended up walking away with Alexis were Caucasian.
Can you describe them for us?
One was wearing a vest, like a jean vest, ripped. He had a lot of tattoos. I believe he was in his 40s. He looked like he was balding. He also had little things on his shoes, made it jingle. They look a bit pointy.
Spurs?
Spurs. Yeah, could definitely be that. He had a big belly, but his arms seemed to be a little bit jacked up. He's a very, very small lower half man and wearing fitted jeans. That pretty much, honestly, all I can see. There are a couple other men that are there, and I feel like one of them is in a suit. The one in the suit was curly hair, but there's also a lot of detail I'm struggling with. I feel like Alexis was given a special present, like a Barbie, to kind of lure her. I'm not entirely sure, though.
Do you know where they took her?
No, and neither does LaRon. From what he shows me, he knows now, but he didn't know at the time. so he can try to guide me to the right answers, but I honestly have no idea.
So Laurent just kept the secret inside, didn't ever tell anyone.
I really do feel like he did tell a few people, actually, but I would say that they were people he would get high with, would never talk about it in the context of himself either. He would always relay it to a third-person situation.
Very interesting.
He even shows me that he went to church about it and asked God for his forgiveness, but this really did haunt him for the remainder of his life. He kept seeing her everywhere. He thought that she was dead, but little did he know.
Absolutely. You were not able to connect with anybody that passed on.
That's absolutely correct. And once I had started the investigation to the story a little further, I had become a little obsessed with finding a photo of this girl in Ohio, Lisa Miller. I kept hearing over and over and over again, make sure you find the photo, make sure you find the photo, it's out there.
So do you feel as though Lisa is really Alexis?
I decided to look into everything, and I looked into the way Ayana looked at her, the way she described it. When you fall in love with a child, you will see that child, you will know who it is, you just know. There is a familiarity with the child because you've been there with that child before. I'm going to tell you guys this. I don't care how many times she tries to convince people that this is not her. I really do believe it is. Now, I'm not going to say that this is her fault by any means, because it really is not. I really do believe that this child was tortured and abused sexually, and I also see her memory was taken from her, and I know there are things that she doesn't remember, and she does remember, but they're extremely fuzzy, but I know they basically beat it out of her. She doesn't want to be this person. She doesn't want these memories. But I also felt something familiar. I know that she felt something too, regardless of how much she wanted to fight it. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to put this information here because I don't like making people uncomfortable. And I know it singles her out amongst many, many, many people, but I feel like we need to do it. She is not that age that she thinks she is. I feel like her life was blacked out even more than 10 years of her life. They let her go because she was a good kid. She was a sweet kid. She was not like the other girls involved. They got involved and stuck with it. I don't feel like she had any children or anything along those lines. I feel like they just put her into the adoption, and I think that's what they did with a few of the kids that they didn't want to necessarily kill. Because when she got too old, they would take them out of the system and put her back into the world, basically.
Can you imagine, though, like, the stress of that on someone, though, like being told that you're someone else? Like, I think that's probably a big reason why this Lisa, like, was like so against it. Like, no, it's not me. Because who wants to believe that? You know what I mean? And definitely, if she were to probably go to therapy, they might be able to unlock those memories of hers.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a lot to digest, though. Have you looked into the future about the situation? Do you see any changes in this outcome?
I don't feel like it's going to come to fruition anytime soon. I really don't. I honestly feel like maybe one of her children, they're going to be the ones that really want to know things. I do feel like there will be a relationship with the kids and their biological grandmother. There will be a familiar feeling with Ayana's other children too. Something will happen. But from what I see and feel, it's going to be a long while. I hope and pray that my words change the outcome of this, but I'm not entirely sure if it will or not. I'm being hopeful.
That's definitely a lot to take in for sure, and thank you for that. Now, you had mentioned a little bit earlier that you had felt like Alexis had been abused and beaten. Was that with these particular men that had taken her?
I'm going to say yes. I feel like she wasn't necessarily sexually abused. I'm sensing that there was an intention to do so, but I just feel like it never came about in that way. She might have been placed in a position where she might have been a slave, maybe cleaning up, taking care of a home. I'm not entirely sure. Honestly, it's pretty blank with very small little moments. From what I can receive from Laurent, he can barely take the time to go in and take a look at her. He honestly is still struggling. He also hasn't crossed over, and I feel like he's waiting to be able to cross over.
Is there anything else that you would like to add to the story?
I'm hoping and I'm praying that we are able to have this family reunited in the way that they need to. And from what I can see, Ayana's mission in life has become sealed. She has done such a good job fighting for her daughter every single day, and she will continue to do so. She at least has a little bit of comfort knowing that her daughter is alive, and I agree with her.
Absolutely. Next week, we will be dropping the episode of Ariel Jeffrey. I am really looking forward to doing the draw for the bonus episode, since we won't know what we're going to be covering until the draw happens. So you guys really have to be the ones to know what you're going to choose first.
Absolutely. Approximately 1 hour before this episode is dropped, we will be going live for our Dream Interpretations episode, and then it will be posted on Saturday so you guys can all take a listen.
Remember, guys, until next time, stay freaked out.